everybody, it's Miss C. So we are doing the next video in our embroidery series. We've done the running stitch, the back stitch, how to thread a needle, how to load the needle into the, how to load the fabric into your little hoop. For now, we're gonna do French knots. I love French knots. I think they're easy, but apparently I'm a crazy person for this. So I'm gonna explain this as simply as I can, but that means nothing. So I have my thread and my needle. I'm gonna make sure there's a knot on the end. Pull that through. There is the how to thread your needle video that you can reference if you need to know how to do that. And on my French knots, I have one labeled 1, one labeled 2, and one labeled 3. A French knot is simply a knot that sits on the surface of your fabric, making like a little buttony sort of shape. Too small to use as an actual button, but if you made one large enough or you've made one out of rope, then it probably would work. So to do a French knot, you're going to come up from the back of your fabric and tug until you feel that knot hitting the back of your fabric, like so. Then, this is where I need to put the hoop down because you need two hands for this. I'm going to take my non-dominant hand. I'm going to pinch about 3/4 of an inch away from where my thread comes out of the surface of the fabric. I'm going to take my dominant hand with my needle and I'm going to put it right behind that thread. And then I'm going to use my non-dominant hand to wind my thread, the one coming out of the fabric, around the tip of the needle some number of times. As you might imagine, we have 1 wrap, 2 wraps, and 3 wraps. So again, I'm pinching about 3/4 of an inch to an inch away from where it's coming out. And I use my needle to go behind it and wrap 1 time or 2 times or 3 times, but in this case 1. And I want to pull it just tight. I'm not trying to yank on this or anything like that. I just want to hold it tight enough that I can slide this around if I need to, but I can also let this go and it's not going to unwrap. So I can move this around. That's good. That's important. I need that. Because if I can move this around without it unraveling, it still just kind of like whipples around like some kind of pulley. Then I'm going to be able to move my needle so that I can pull my needle back and stab down right next to where I came up. It is not the same place I came up. It is just very, very close. This should look like I'm going down in the same spot without being going down in the same spot. Oops, slid off a little bit. I'm going to poke myself down there. I'm going to poke my needle through. I'm still holding this. This is staying in my fingers. This thread starts going through. All of this is still loose. Nothing here is being held. Only this part. I'm going to push that through and pull that through my needle. And I'm going to keep pulling, keeping a hold of that until it gets really small. And once it gets really small, I'm going to go ahead and let it go and pull it tight. And now I have this little knot that floats on the top of my fabric. We're going to do it again at 2. Push up at 2. Set down because I need 2 hands. I'm going to pinch my thread about 1 inch away. I like my thread to loop this way, by the way, around the bottom. I'm going to put my needle behind that thread, and this time I'm going to wrap 2 times. 1 time, 2 time. And again, I can move this around. That's good. It gives me enough maneuverability to stab down right next to where I came up. Should be very, very close. Then I'm going to push through, pull, until it gets really small. Then I can let it go and finish pulling. And what you should notice is that 1 wrap needle is just a bit smaller than the 2 wraps knot. Gonna come up on 3. Set it down because I need 2 hands. I'm gonna grab about 1 inch away, put my needle behind. I'm gonna wrap 1, 2, 3. You could keep going 4, 5, or 6, but honestly 4 is really as much as it's going to get. And again, I can move this around. You can see my thread is also getting quite small because I'm having to fight it all the time. I'm going to go down right next to where I came up. You can see that it's very, very close. Push it through. Come on. Keep pulling, pulling, pulling until it's a really small loop. And there we go. Each one a little bit bigger than the previous. A smaller knot, a medium knot, and a larger knot because I wrapped 1 time, 2 times, or 3 times. Now, I'm going to lock my threads in place like I always do. This is a very large stitch, but it will still work for the purposes of locking in place. I'm going to limbo under there, pull until there's a tiny loop, slip through that loop and pull tight. Then do it again, limbo underneath, pull until there's a little loop, go through the little loop, pull tight again. And now I can snip quite short. At this point, you can see that my thread is quite small. If I had to do another 1 or 2 French knots, I probably could. But if I had to do just about any other stitch, this length of thread is useless. Therefore, it goes in the trash. It is no longer needed. It is scrap thread. And I will need to cut a whole new piece of thread in order to reload my needle and continue on again. All right, so that is French knots, and we'll be back for satin stitch. Bye.